Hi, my name is Brandy and I want to welcome you to Sewing Back. Today's video is all about preserving the taste of summer. This is part of a small collaboration with 3 other content creators on YouTube. The first is Julia over at Farmhouse Harvest, and she is going to be showing us how to preserve raspberries and how to get cheap or even free canning jars. Then you're going to hop over the pond to Ireland to Deborah, She Moms with Oil, and she's going to show us how to preserve kale. And then I want you to check out Dawn at Buckeye Acres. She's harvesting corn and preserving it in Nebraska. And I am going to be showing you 3 different ways to preserve tomatoes. So I hope that you will find this informative and it will encourage you to come preserve a taste of summer with us. And I have an abundance, if you cannot tell, of cherry tomatoes. And we're gonna make some oven pizza sauce. So we're gonna roast these tomatoes, and all I did was wash them off really well. And honestly, they've already been washed, and then I re-washed them because I have a dog that has poofy hair. So I just better to err on the side of caution. So I have a few peppers from my garden, and I'm gonna add these to roast with this. I'm gonna use some infused olive oil, a little garlic salt, and my favorite Tuscan blend. This pizza sauce recipe calls for 12 cups of cherry tomatoes sliced in half, 3 tablespoons of garlic infused olive oil, or whatever your favorite infused olive oil might be. I loved using this caramelized garlic. It just gave such a depth of flavor. And then you need half of a teaspoon of garlic salt and 1.5 teaspoons of, I use the Salt Sisters Tuscan spice blend, and I can link that in the description. I did 2 bell peppers. Actually, I think one was a Marconi pepper that had not turned, but it was what I had, so I used it. So essentially 2 bell peppers and I used 2 banana peppers. And I took the seeds out as best I could, but I didn't really worry too much about it. I mixed them all together with that infused olive oil on my tray. I put them in the oven at 350 degrees for 1 hour and let it roast. When it comes out, I'm going to put this into my Vitamix, and I'm going to just blend it down, and I will add some fresh chopped garlic, about 4 to 6 cloves depending on how much you like it. I am also going to add 1/8 of a cup of lemon juice and just some salt to taste if it needs it. And this is what we're going to be using for our dinner on this evening for pizza night. We do homemade sourdough pizzas, and this sauce is phenomenal, and it freezes beautifully, so you don't have to can this, you can freeze this, and that's exactly what I did with my excess that this made. I have been measuring out my tomatoes, so I know that this is 9 pounds, and I know that this should make once it breaks down, this should easily do my 7 quarts of chili base that I want to can tonight. So I'm just going to get this going on the stove, and then what I did was in my Instapot, this is the equivalent of about 12.5 pounds of tomatoes, and so I'm going to half the recipe that I found. This recipe comes from the author is Erica Walker, and she refers to her Uncle Larry. So I don't know if it's Uncle Larry's recipe, but it sounds delicious. So I have to go through and half the measurements, so I know how many onions. Sorry, I have tomato all over me. So I know how many peppers and onions to chop up, because you're supposed to cook that along with, as well as onion, peppers, and I think and garlic. So I need to go do the math for that, and then I'll come back and we'll do that together. So this will be half a recipe, which that's good, because that should mean I would have enough. I would have at least 4 quarts to do it in my Nesco canner, because I have to do wide mouth jars if I'm doing quarts. So, and I can fit 4 in there. So I should be able to get 4 quarts. I may end up getting 5 quarts. And if I do that, I'll probably just put one of them in the refrigerator and use it the next time we have pasta. And if this goes well, my next batch, I should be able to do the full 25 pounds. And I could just I might even do it in the roaster pan. Because my Instapot clearly will not hold 25 pounds and all this other stuff. So I think this is my trial run to see if I like this. And if I do, that will be cool, because that will give me a lot of pasta sauce that I grew and I made on my shelf. And that's exciting for me. So, and honestly, that is money savings for me. And because not all my tomatoes. I did buy some tomato starts because I killed a lot of mine trying to do it in the greenhouse for the first time, and a heat mat, and a really hot winter day, and it was about all it took. So anyway, I'm gonna go do my math, because that's important to check our math. I'm gonna go ahead and get these other tomatoes on my stove, so that they can start heating up at a low heat. And I have my jars in the dishwasher right now getting sanitized, because these are used jars and they've been in the garage. They need a good cleaning and sanitizing. And so yeah, and I still have my other tomatoes in the oven, and it smells incredible. So I'm very excited about all the tomatoes. To get these cherry tomatoes out of the oven. And let's see how they look. With all these tomato projects going today. Woo! Okay, I can't see. I don't know how they look. Woo! I gotta. Ooh! That is beautiful. I gotta get a picture of that. Look how beautiful that is. And it smells so good. Holy smokes, y'all. So I'm gonna let this cool for a few minutes, and then we're gonna put it up in our Vitamix. I'll kind of give it a taste to see what flavors I need to add to it, because we use the infused oils and our spices, and we just roasted it into our tomatoes, and we'll see how our pizza sauce turns out. But
fancy.
Isn't it pretty?
It's so nice.
I thought so too. I hope it tastes good. That just came out of a hot oven. So anyway, I'll check back with you in just a few minutes, and we'll get this in the Vitamix to make pizza sauce. They're so good. So good. Oh my word. So good. Okay, so I'm gonna scoop these into my Vitamix, and I do believe that the majority of the excess liquid just evaporated. So, yeah. So I am filling my Vitamix with all of the tomatoes. It filled it up. And now I am just smashing up some of my homegrown soft neck garlic. And I ended up putting about 6 cloves of garlic in this. I also did a little salt to taste. And I added 1/8 of a cup of lemon juice just to kind of brighten it up a little bit. And then I just pulverized it in the Vitamix, and this was so thick. Oh my word, and it is so delicious. We used this for this night, for pizza night,
And I ended up putting 2 more pizza nights in some containers, and I froze it, and it freezes beautifully. And so this, as you can see, I was tasting it, and I'm clearly happy. But this will be my new go-to pizza sauce. I just think this was fabulous, and I think what I want to do is take some of this and add it to my pasta sauce next time, because my pasta sauce ended up running a little thin, and I think this would give it the thickener that it needs.
I'm going to use my Tuscan blend because it has all these same spices in it. So I'm just going to take the measurement I would have used to individually do them and do it with Tuscan blend. So these are my peppers right here. So I'm going to get these in here. These are my onions and my garlic. I smashed it and then just kind of rough chopped it. Got my jars right here. I have my coconut aminos. This is 1/8 of a cup. Of coconut aminos. It calls for soy sauce. I don't have enough soy sauce, and I typically use this anyway. So, and that's liquid aminos, not coconut aminos. This is 1 tablespoon and another like 1/2 teaspoon. So I'm just gonna do about half of this. Should be enough. This is Worcestershire. Everybody says that a little bit different. And then I need, seems like a lot of salt, but I need, I'm just double checking it. Okay, so I need that, 1/8. Okay, so I'm glad I double checked it. I only need 1/8 of a cup. This is 1/4 of a cup. So I'm just gonna do it halfway. It calls for brown sugar, and I'm out of brown sugar, so I'm going to use coconut sugar. And I use coconut sugar all the time in when I make chili. And so it's not much, it's just to offset the flavor. And this needs to be 1/3 of a cup, so I'm using my 1/4 of a cup, and that's good enough. Okay, now we're gonna do our Tuscan spices, and so I'm doing 4 tablespoons. I did heaping tablespoons. And I'm gonna kind of mix this up, and then we're gonna put in our tomato paste, and then we just let it get happy. Oh, and 1 bay leaf. I'll put that in just a second too. I wanna mix this up. This is to capacity. And I'm thinking this is probably going to make more than 4 jars. So, but that's okay. Can always can 2 batches. Like I said, if I like how well this tastes, I plan to, all the other tomatoes I have will go towards a big, I'll probably do a roaster pan full at that point, because that's what I'll need to make it fit. All right, so I've got to do jars of tomato paste. I need a little biggie. So we're gonna put these in. And I get this paste from Azure, and I buy it maybe once a year, a case of it. And because I'm mainly using it for something like this, and then beef stew, stuff like that. Really, that's the only time I use it. Okay. So now let's see. And I've got my bay leaf I put in there.
So now my crushed tomatoes are complete. They've heated through. I've taken the immersion blender and blended them up. My kids don't like that marinara kind of thickness in sauces, so they want it smooth. So that's why I use my emulsion blender. So now I'm just jarring these up using best practices, and I used the ball canning book. There is a mix for an Italian blend, a Creole blend, and a Mexican type blend. And so I mix that up. That's what's in my jar. And so I'm adding 2 tablespoons of lemon juice to each jar. And then I'm using roughly about 1 full tablespoon of the chili mix. Well, 1 tablespoon plus another half in each jar. And so I think I also put in like half of a teaspoon of salt, because it's optional. I think it actually called for more salt. I try to do a little less salt. And so then you just want to fill it up until you have about a 1/2 inch of headspace. You want to clean the mouths of your jar. This one can get a little messy. Tomatoes are just messy sometimes. And so you'll wipe your rims with some vinegar so that you have a good seal. And then you're always going to want to use a new band. Not a new band, but a new lid. You can reuse bands as long as they're clean and they're not dented or rusted. And these actually are, I'm reusing jars here, and I'm also reusing the bands here, but I am using new lids that I got from Azure Standard. These are called Superb lids, and they sell them. And I got these when I was having a really hard time finding other canning lids, and so I picked some of these up in an Azure haul, and I really like these lids. They're a little bit thicker, but I haven't had any of them that do not seal, whether I'm water bath canning or if I'm pressure canning. So I have been very impressed with the lids, and they come in, I think you can order them in a couple different sizes. I think I got like the middle of the road, so I have a good bit of these in wide mouth, and these jars are actually regular mouth jars. And so that's what I'm doing here. I do debubble, and because that can help you have a better seal. And now I'm taking my immersion blender to my spaghetti sauce, and I'm thinning that out because again, my kids like those smooth sauces. And the sauce tastes delicious, but the sauce is a little thin even after letting it go for about 5 hours in the Instapot. And I was just tired and wanted to be done, and so I went ahead and canned it. So when I use these that I canned, I will have to add some tomato paste or something to thicken. So now we're going to move to canning up our spaghetti sauce. I will link this recipe. It's not my recipe, so I will link it in the description. I did half it, and so, like I said, it did turn out a little thin. I think it's a delicious recipe, but you might want to let it reduce down even for a longer period of time. Like I said, I was just kind of spent, been at this all day, and wanted to get it done. And I can thicken it up really easy with some tomato paste when I go to use it for dinner. Again, you're following the same practices as we did with the last set of tomatoes. Now I'm going to pressure can these, but you still want a 1/2 inch of headspace. You want to debubble. You want to fingertip tight when you put on your bands and lids. I am using wide mouth jars because that is what is recommended for the Nesco Smart Canner. It's a pressure canner, and you will see how to use it next.
Okay guys, this is a pressure canner. This is an electric smart pressure canner. This is by Nesco. It is the same thing as the Carry canner. They're exactly the same machine. One says Nesco, one says Carry, same machine. So, if you get one of these machines, you'll see you have this trivet. It's like this. It needs to go down, feet down, and here. My band is my gasket here. I've already oiled. It's still good. I don't do it every time. Maybe depending on how much I'm using it, you know, every few times you would want to take it out and oil it. But this, it still feels good to me. You want to make sure that all your stuff looks intact, and this is how easy this is. Anyway, you can just, so you just follow the same, what we just did with the jars, okay? Where we left 1/2 inch of headspace, just like we did with the ones that are in the water bath canner. But they have to water bath for 45 minutes. This has to go for 25 minutes, and this one doesn't have to be babysat. So let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to put our jars in here. I can only fit 4. If I only had pint size wide mouth, I could do 5. All right, so you're supposed to put your jars in here, and then you're supposed to put 2 quarts of water. There was a manual that came out early on, and I think it said less water than that. That's not correct. It is 2 quarts of warm water, which is what I have. This is just from my tap, and I'm going to pour it in the center of the machine. All right. And now all you're going to do, you're going to turn it here where it says exhaust. And see how it says it's open? That's locked. It says close on this side. That's how easy that is. We're going to plug it in. It is a little loud when you're setting it. We're going to pressure can this. Don't put pressure cook. We're not pressure cooking. We are pressure canning, so you hit high and you put in your time. And our time is going to be 25 minutes, and you hit start. And it's gonna run through until it comes up to temperature. And when it does, it'll say E10. That's not error 10. That's not what that stands for. It stands for exhaust, the E in exhaust, for 10 minutes. Just like if you had a pressure canner on your stovetop, it has to vent for 10 minutes. And when it gets to E0, it's gonna beep. And at that point, you're gonna hit airtight. You just move this to airtight, and it will do the rest for you. When it finishes, it will say off. You unplug it, you leave it alone for at least an hour or overnight. And I will leave these alone overnight because I'm tired and don't want to fool with it. So I really just have to wait for this to come to pressure to vent for that 10 minutes, which I still have these going. And I still have some more dishes to do now. And then yes, it does everything else for you. And that's why I love this machine. Now I do like my stovetop one too, because I can do more of it, but you have to watch it, and particularly with a gas stove. This is a very powerful gas stove. It's a dual fuel, and I have to really watch my gauge that it doesn't get too hot. And so I have a couple eyes adjusted that I can use with it. But I really like this. As a matter of fact, somebody commented a while back, I can't remember if it was on one of the YouTube videos or if it was on the Instagram page or the Facebook group page, I can't remember, but they were saying how they liked it so much they got two because then they were like, I don't even have to deal with the stovetop one anymore. So I could see why someone would do that. I just don't really have the space for one more thing, I don't think. So I'm happy with this for now. Who knows? Who knows in the future? So anyway, that's all there is to it. I'll show you everything when everything comes out, and I'm about tomatoed out. But okay guys, I don't know if you can see, it says, oops, it says E5, it says E5. I think it may look like E3 on the video, but it's E5. You can see it's venting steam, or I hope you can. You can hear it. And so, when it beeps, when it comes to E0 and it beeps, I'm going to turn it to airtight, and it does the rest. This one over here just got done a couple minutes ago. So I have all my dishes done and the dishwasher running again. And so let's show you what these look like. They look pretty. I'll bring you in closer once we get them out. I only got 5 of the chili, so I'll have to do some more of the chili, which is fine. And you don't have to do it like this. Like, you can just make chili, you can just do the tomatoes and do all this when you're ready to cook it. But this makes it so much faster. On the night you go to cook it, because you can literally just open jars and cans and brown some meat, or if you're going to do a vegetarian one, you could do some canned beans. And I did want to show you, so you will have a separation of the tomatoes and the juice. The juice is usually going to go towards the bottom. That's totally fine. Nothing wrong with it. It'll incorporate when you go to use it. So, that is done. I don't see any siphoning, which is good. So that means we had our head space right and our jars, the lids screwed properly. You don't want to over tighten them. So yeah, I'll leave those alone till tomorrow, and then I'll wash them. I'll take the bands off. They're already kind of labeled, but I will date them and stuff. And see, it says E0. So now all we're going to do is turn it to airtight, and it will start circling back through. And when it builds up enough pressure, it will count down, and that's it. Like I said, when it's finished, it says off, and you unplug it, and you're supposed to leave it for at least an hour, and then you can open it and take your jars out. I'm just going to leave them in because it's late. This was my pizza sauce. So what I ended up doing, I have a little bit more in these. I'm going to put them in the fridge tonight. I'll freeze them. I had just a small amount left of this, and I just took these and I mixed it with it, so it wasn't as thick. It's still really thick, but it would give us more sauce, and that way I had even everything. So anyway, that's how easy it is to water bath can, pressure can. Anyway, I hope y'all have a great night. Can you see it's chasing? So it's just building the pressure up in the pressure canner. That's all it's doing. And it will cut on in just a few minutes, count down. And I'm gonna go put my feet up for just a little bit and then I'm going to bed because it's like 10:50 at night and I've been up since 7 something this morning. So, and I've been working all day. So I'm tired. So good night.
So this is the next day, the next morning actually, and I wanted to kind of show you what it looks like when that comes out of the canner. This did sit overnight. Normally you would just wait an hour and then you can open up and you could bring your items out. It was late and I didn't feel like fooling with it, so I just let it be. This is the spaghetti sauce, and I did actually have some siphoning in this batch. It's the first time I've had siphoning in this canner, and to be very honest with you, I think it is because my jars were not as hot as they should have been for the temperature that I was the amount of heat of the product I was putting in. They had cooled down and while I was doing the other jars, and so that can allow for you to have siphoning, as long as you don't siphon more than half of the original contents. It's still safe to eat as long as you have a seal, and these did all seal just fine. So but that stunk that they did have some siphoning because I wanted all of the contents so that I had enough. But that's okay. It's a process, and sometimes that happens. So again, I hope that you might give a try one or maybe all 3 ways that we preserve tomatoes today. Please don't forget to check the description for the other channels that are preserving the taste of summer, and I hope that you will try some of their recipes as well so that you can preserve a taste of summer that you can put on your pantry shelf. And come fall, winter, especially winter, when you're longing for a taste of all these wonderful items, that you can just go down to your pantry shelf and you can grab a jar or however you choose to preserve the different summer items, and that you'll be able to have that taste of summer in that season, and it'll tide you over until next summer. I sure do appreciate you stopping by and for watching the channel. I hope that your day is blessed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!